Good day. It's nice to have you visit once again. I would like to talk with you today about South Africa. About a year ago, there was a shock when I wrote in the comments section of a video regarding South Africa that I used the words, the allegedly terrible sin which was apartheid. My words and many, many more I have written over the years are considered factual and equable. I lived in South Africa for 18 years. My 3 kids were all born in South Africa. Before I decided to leave, as I recognised that the country in which I lived was about to change, irrevocably and for the worst. Many people would say that I helped maintain the so-called apartheid state by living, working there and paying my taxes. I raised my family there. I had a decent standard of living. But the one thing about my life in South Africa was the simple fact that the nationalist government, the Afrikaner government, yes, the apartheid government, was the only incorruptible ruling body in the whole of black Africa. Forget about the howls of anger from the anti-apartheid movements in liberal Great Britain, in America and Canada. Forget about the strong statements denouncing the fact that the black man in South Africa was allegedly disenfranchised, that he had no vote. All they were upset about was the fact that the white Africans were in charge and doing a pretty good job of it. The anti-apartheid movement wanted the African National Congress, the ANC, a terrorist organisation, to be given the whole caboodle. And the many friends of the ANC in Western governments, all the broadcasters along with the ANC-friendly newspapers, that ensured that the only headlines about South Africa were the slanted ones, the lies and the semi-truths. That is what has come today to be known as fake news. I recall a news team which was given access to the shaft levels of a gold mine, where I used to work on a gold mine at one time, and they were allowed to film the thousands of black and white workers as they filed in and out of the shaft cages, which sped up and down the 6,000 feet from the surface to the transit points. Now, the black supervisors who ran the mass transit system on that mine were forced to walk and work perilously close to open shafts when cage doors were opened, and so they all wore safety belts attached to strength-tested chains fastened to steel girders. When that film was transmitted, that snip was shown with a voiceover stating that the black workers were chained up so that they could not escape. The fact that those same black men travelled for days and sometimes thousands of miles to sign up for the work on a gold mine because it was so well paid, because it was so dangerous, was never allowed to be publicised. I believe that the world will slowly come to realise that the African, the black man, is incapable of transforming his belief systems and political animus to run their countries in the same manner as Western democracies. Just check out the number of African countries which have been given the choice, the very freedom to choose how and in what manner they are governed, and then be a little selective and find the one nation which has adhered to the basic ideal of standards of democracy, namely Botswana, a product of British idealism transformed into a nation run by a black government which has steadfastly adhered to the rule of law in both its governance and government. Apart from South Africa, only one. Does the viewer not find that statistic ludicrous? Apart from South Africa, when run by the white man, which virtually ran itself since the 1920s, the only nation in black Africa which has steadfastly adhered to Western standards. The Telegraph article of yesterday's newspaper shows how far South Africa has descended from Mandela's fantasy rhetoric about his bloody rainbow nation. Check out the headline, Why South Africa is on the Precipice of Explosive Violence and Mass Unrest. Yes, the rainbow is still there, but the colours are varying shades of red, mirroring the dried blood of those killed and injured. Personally, I had very little time for the saviour of South Africa, along with the bloody rainbow nation and all the other phrases which rattled out, but even I have to give him his due. He smoothed the way between white rule and the incoming black government. He resisted the urge for vengeance, despite the urging by many of his advisers. He cooled the ANC's effort to grab everything which wasn't exactly bolted down, and in the end he paved the way for a peaceful transition. But once Mandela's level hand left the tiller of state, because he was an elderly man, the thieves, the vagabonds and the corrupters had themselves a field day, from the presidency downwards. The noise as the cash was being counted was deafening. The senior jobs at places such as Eskom, the state electricity group, were engineers, men whom I have worked with alongside and admired for their knowledge and dedication, were literally pushed aside, and those desks were then occupied by illiterates, people of absolutely no experience, training, or indeed actual education, but worthy of a high position because of the colour of their skin and the names of their relatives. The other item of interest was during the planning for the South African World Cup. The football authorities arranged, with of course lots of borrowed money, to refurbish 3 stadiums and build another 5 new ones, costing in total some $4 billion. But the government in the Transvaal decided that, as I said, the government in the Transvaal decided that because all these happy supporters need to get to the new stadiums south of Johannesburg, they needed a rapid transit system. So it was planned, ordered, built and opened at a cost of $2.4 billion. The new trains for the system known as the Gautrain, Gautrain, the Gautrain, came from Bombardier in Derby, and they got the best. But the cream on top of that package was the fact that 10 government ministers were on the board of Gautrain, and it is strongly estimated that they had enriched themselves to the tune of $20 million apiece. Just one problem for the passengers who wish to use the efficient, fast and wonderful Gautrain. The price of the tickets is so high, the average black man cannot afford the fares. So they continue to use the overcrowded local trains and the taxis, those so dangerous vehicles which are never ever serviced. There is one novel, which describes both South Africa and Black Africa, and its title says and speaks volumes. That book, Cry, the Beloved Country, by Alan Paton. It is well worth a read. I thank you for your visit, and I hope to see you again.